The stair comes up behind the nave in one close turning flight. The sexton shakes the runner out, and dust goes blue on white. You stand beside the loft rail there, with 3 books on your arm, and lay the ribbons page by page, as if to keep them calm. The organ has not found its breath, the choir bench still is bare, and mine is opened, ribbon laid, before I reach the stair. You test the pitch pipe once, then stop, too soft for downstairs ears. Then brush one cold smudge from the rail that gathers every year. The ribbon in the hymnal, red against the fading line, makes the old words seem to know they shall be found again in time. The ribbon in the hymnal, that was your way, and now it stays in mine. When winter pressed the early dark against the colored glass, and tired voices climbed the stair, too late, too cold, too fast. You never asked for any thanks, you never raised your tone, you only marked the place to sing, and made the place feel known. The ribbon in the hymnal, red against the evening brown, still tells the hand that opens there where to begin when light goes down. The ribbon in the hymnal, some kindnesses are made that small and sound. The benches fill, the first chord comes, the lamp burns near the wall, and in the book you left for me, your quiet care outsings us all. One bell let go the air, the rails receive the rain, a silver wash on window glass made blue of every pane. We passed the shuttered baker's shop, the tailor's darkened sign, the cobblestones below the car went drifting out of time. At the old stop I rose before I knew I rose, to follow where no footstep goes. At the old stop, two strangers reached the little door and stepped into the rain. Their footsteps crossed the shining curve, then thinned from ear and pain. An awning dripped above the street, one window kept a star. The place I once called home at night was only where we are. The conductor faced ahead, the lamps grew pale and thin. A little hush of reverie came traveling softly in. No grand farewell had marked that door, no trumpet split the blue. Yet habit, like a faithful hand, still lifted me toward you. I had not meant to leave my seat, nor trouble what had passed, but one small stop along the line could gather up the past. At the old stop, I rose before I knew I rose, to follow where no footstep goes. At the old stop, the tram moved on in silver rain. The wires hummed overhead. Still somewhere on that empty curb, my shadow stood instead. And long after the final turn, and long after the blue grew soft, my heart kept hearing midnight shoes at the old stop. Twilight rested on the frames, the lamp rehearsed its gold, the phonograph with patient grace unfastened from the cold. You did not ask me for the dance, you only crossed the room and drew my chair a little back, as if to lift the gloom. The velvet curtains kept the rain, the grate kept back the blue, and every little thing we owned grew hushed to look at you. Then when your fingers touched my sleeve, so lightly, with a sigh, the years we never thought to name By and by, the evening learned your name, from how you moved, not what you said. From lamplight on your silvered head, the evening learned your name. The teacups had gone pale with steam, the embers breathed in red. You smiled and said, my darling heart, the way you always said. No miracle had crossed the rug, no bright occasion shone, unless one counts the tender grace of never being alone. Outside the cobblestones were dim and silvered by the rain. Inside one little waltz began and made us young again. No grand serenade came down the stair, no trumpet split the air. But when your hand enclosed my own, I felt how love lives there. Not in the blaze that startles youth, nor vows that bloom and burn, but in the hush a whole room keeps for those who still return. The evening learned your name, from how you moved, not what you said. From lamplight on your silvered head, the evening learned your name. The record thinned to whispered dust, the fire withdrew to rose. Still starlight lay across the rug in little afterglows. And long after the last note passed, and long after the rain grew tame, my heart kept moving through that room where evening learned your name. The row of beans had gone to shade, the watering can stood by. One thrush kept to the apple bough against a paling sky. You'd work the whole long garden through with dirt along your wrist. The lettuces, the marigolds, the path the hose had kissed. I came out late from supper things with pegs still in my hand, and saw your cardigan hung there as if it had been planned. You knew the dusk before it came, the chill before it stirred, and left one sleeve across the latch without a single word. The cardigan on the gate, you were farther down among the rows with basket shears and twine, the tomatoes giving back the heat they'd gathered all through shine. I took the sweater from the wood, still warm where sun had stayed, and all at once the evening felt more tended than it made. No vow was in the garden there, no moonlit talk, no plea, only that soft domestic wit that notices for me. For love, when it has learned its trade, grows weather-wise and plain. It hangs a little warmth nearby before the cool can claim. You knew the dusk before it came, the hour before it bent, and left a kind of waiting there more dear than compliment. I slipped it on and closed the latch. The light went leaf by leaf, and all the path came home to me. The cardigan on the gate. By dark the peas were shelled indoors, the windows yellowed late, but still I felt the shape of care that hung upon the gate. Twilight thinned along the wall, the embers kept their red. The phonograph beneath the lamp turned one soft waltz instead. You moved the velvet chair for me, I moved the smaller one, until a little floor appeared where all the day was done. Your slippers brushed the woven rug, my shoes gave back a sigh, and all at once the narrow room felt wider than the sky. When the chair stood aside, the little room grew wide and mild, and held us like a quiet child. When the chair stood aside, the mantel held one wedding frame, the curtains breathed the blue. A thread of starlight crossed the pane and found its way to you. You said, my darling, not too fast, so lightly with a smile, and every step across the floor made time stand still a while. The phonograph grew soft and thin, the embers leaned to gold, yet footsteps in that humble room sounded neither tired nor old. No serenade came through the street, no grand occasion shone, only the chairs against the wall and us when day was gone. And then I knew how love makes room, not by the words we say, but by the things we set aside to let the heart have way. When the chair stood aside, the little room grew wide and mild, and held us like a quiet child. When the chairs stood aside, the record turned, the lamp burned low, the starlight kissed the floor. Still one small space between two chairs felt blessed forevermore. The pier lights shake along the boards, the ticket girls are gone, and in the booth behind the games the painted moon leans on. You stand beside the canvas screen with salt upon your sleeve, a tray of silver flashbulbs spent too warm yet to receive. The roller skates have quieted, the prizes hang half low, a paper horse on painted springs still rocks when no winds blow. The last young couple step inside with laughter almost shy. He drops his cap beneath the stool, she lifts her flowers high. You turn the crescent by one nail to catch them in its curve, as if a wooden moon could give the grace they both deserve. The painted moon, the painted moon, was only bored and borrowed blue above a canvas dune. The painted moon, yet when you said it right, two ordinary faces found a softer kind of light. You tell them not to move too soon, then count beneath your breath. The bulb goes white, the curtain jumps, the whole room startles left. He laughs and finds her gloved hand there, she smooths her little veil, and you slip out the paper strip before the colors pale. I wait outside with nothing lost, no picture left to claim, only the smell of salt and bulbs and how you say his name. You trim the edges with your shears, then place the portraits flat, and all the summer I had kept seems suddenly like that. Years will take the penny games, the booth, the pier, the shore, the paper moons that lovers used to stand beneath once more. But I remember how you turned that crescent with your hand, how something made for make-believe could tell the truth and stand. The painted moon, the painted moon, still hangs for me in August air, a little out of tune. The painted moon, not sky, not pearl, not flame, only the light you gave to them and never gave my name. The booth goes dark, the bulbs grow cool, the tide begins below, and on its nail the wooden moon keeps shining where I go. The presses had not thundered yet. The street was milk and gray, and in the room above the trucks, the headlines waited day. She stood beside the galley tray, with ink along her thumb, the copy spike already full, the linotype gone numb. A kettle hissed behind the door, a foreman rubbed his eyes, and April pressed against the brick before the papers rise. One column told of market wheat, one named a missing boat, one carried birth and weather there in narrow lines of notes. She bent above the proof sheet then, not hurried, not severe, and found one wrong small letter where a widow's name stood clear. One red proof mark curved around the wrong, small enough to vanish when the morning moved along. One red proof mark, no trumpet and no flame, only a careful hand that kept a sorrow with its name. The page boy brought another stack, the night desk called for space, a clock above the pasteboard wall kept powder on its face. She crossed the letter cleanly once, then wrote the right one in, as if the dead deserved at least the dignity of print. The roller stirred below the floor, the whole room seemed to lean. The corrected slug was lifted out and set back into scene. No one thanked her for the change, no one paused to see, but in that line a life went out, as true as it could be. Some work is done before the town has washed its window glass, before the hats and breakfast rolls, before the milk carts pass. And some mistakes are small to all, except the ones who know a letter wrong, a name unheld, a grief not fit to go. One red proof mark, bright beneath the lamp, held the paper back a breath before the plates were stamped. One red proof mark, plain as work can seem, yet all the city woke to news made kinder than a dream. At 6 the trucks went coughing out, the floor began to shake, and on her thumb the red remained long after daybreak. By 7, all the stools were filled with caps, lunch pails, and thread. A seamstress with her cuff still pinned, 2 brothers smelling faintly of bread. You wrote the date up in the corner, turned and tucked one strand away, then sounded out the longest word as if it wished to stay. The radiator knocked below, a cart went rattling through the square, and every letter on the board looked calmer for your care. You never laughed at halted mouths or hands that gripped too tight. You only tapped the margin once and brought the sentence right. My pencil split, you crossed the room and lent your knife to me, then laid the shavings in your palm as neatly as could be. The lamp made islands on the desks, the window dull to cold. You said again so quietly, it seemed to steady all the chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, white as the proof a hard thing can grow mild. You carried all evening's broken sounds and never made one feel like a child. The chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, I watched it shine when you lowered your hand, and thought there are some who teach the tongue, and some who teach a man to stand. Years may leave their sums unpaid, their rent due sharp, their winters long, yet one clear word correctly kept can set a crooked day less wrong. And what you brushed from off the board did not quite vanish with the line. It stayed upon your sleeve and skin, a little patience made visible. The chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm. After the copybooks closed and the last chair slid, you gathered the stubs in a tobacco tin like bits of faith from what the evening did. The chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, no jewel could have seemed half so fine. For I went down the darkened stairs with half your brightness on my mind. The grocer barred his lower door, the hallway smelled of apples and coal, and on the rail where your hand had passed, one pale mark rode with me home. The hangar doors were chained by 10. The windsock snapped and leaned, and rain ran down the radio roof in little lines of green. You sat beside the weatherboard with headphones at your chin, the oilcloth map beneath the lamp, the coastline pencil thin. A mug stood cold beside the log, the clock had crossed 11, and every bulb along the field looked small against the heaven. The night mail had been due at 9, then due at 1/2 more. The tower man had shut his book and tried the outer door. But through the static, faint and torn, a voice came back at last. Too far north of the lighthouse beam, too low and losing mast. You did not call the danger out or let the whole room know. You only found the beacon switch and turned the landing glow. Not bright enough to blind the rain, not high enough to flare, but low and steady on the strip, a line he might catch there. The tower window shook with storm, a wrench rolled from the sill. The tower man said, "No use tonight," but you were very still. You counted off the seconds once, then leaned into the wire and spoke the runway like a prayer, without a prayer's attire. Some lights are not for celebration, not for harbor, house or street. They live where distance loses courage and the dark forgets its feet. And some hands know the measure between too much and not enough. A brightness held below the storm, so fear may call it love. Keep the beacon low, keep the beacon low. Let it burn beneath the weather, where the tired wings can go. Keep the beacon low. No bell, no crowd, no flame, only one green mercy there, calling him by name. Keep the beacon low till the engine finds the field, till the rain lets go its siren and the hidden wheels are healed. Keep the beacon low. I saw before he came how carefully a light must live to guide and not to claim. At 12 the wheels touched gravel hard, the mail sack struck the floor, and in the glass beside your hand, that low green light burned more. The room was twilight stayed, about the things that are. My brushes waited in their jar, like guests who knew the hour. The floorboards held the last of night, the curtain bent and bowed. Below, a magnolia moved so lightly in the air. Its fragrance climbed the narrow stair, as if to find me there. Then on the glass my silhouette grew pale and fine and mild, as though the morning entering had asked to be let in. What the morning kept was not the star nor fading blue, but all the hush that led to you. What the morning kept. No footstep climbed the attic stair, no voice disturbed the room, yet every jar and silver tray seemed listening in the gloom. A teardrop gathered on the brush, then trembled into gleam. Not sorrow fit for any name, but sorrow near a dream. Outside the roofs were pearl and smoke. Inside the canvas bare began to hold a little more than emptiness and air. No serenade came up the stair, no radiant summons shone. But when the first faint gold appeared, I felt less left alone. For some things do not come as joy, nor leave as sorrows do. They only lay a tender hand upon the heart, then move. What the morning kept was not the star nor fading blue, but all the hush that led to you. What the morning kept. The star went out upon the pane, the blue began to yield. I set one quiet color down, as though a vow were sealed. And long after the room grew bright and common day had stepped, something in me stayed listening still to what the morning kept. The hill road froze before the gate, the town lay dark below, and in the dome the red lamp made the brass knobs softly glow. check the chart against the month, then turn the wheel with care. The shutter groaned above our heads and let in colder air. A train moved small beyond the ridge, its windows passing thin. You held the black cap in your hand before the night came in. I watched you wait until the glass had cleared its little mist, as if the sky required a pause before it could exist. The lens cap in your hand, dark as a thing that keeps the light away, lay quiet while the whole round room made ready for the dayless day. The lens cap in your hand, I did not know until you turned how much a covered heart may hold before it dares be learned. You found the focus by degrees, not fast, not proud, not near, and let me look when all the stars had sharpened into clear. Your sleeve brushed snow from off the rail, your breath went wiped, then gone. You said the smallest point up there had traveled years to dawn. Below us roofs and chimneys slept, the courthouse clock struck 2, and all the distance in the world seemed narrowed down by you. Since then I passed that hill at times, when March comes cold and still, and see no lamp, no turning dome, no figure on the hill. But there are ways a room remains by what it taught the eye, to wait, uncover, hold its breath, and trust the farthest sky. The lens cap in your hand, small as a lid, plain as a working part, yet once you lifted it from glass, the dark moved gently from my heart. The lens cap in your hand, I see it now when nights grow wide, a little cover drawn away, and all the heavens inside. The shutter closed, the red lamp dimmed, frost silvered every stair, and in my coat, all walking home, the open night stayed there. Twilight thinned along the pane, the embers breathed below. A phonograph began to play in little turns and slow. I moved the velvet chair aside, you folded back the throw. The rug lay open, warm and wide, where evening used to go. Your silhouette came through the blue, in slipper, sleeve and grace. And all at once the room I knew grew younger in its place. When the needle trembled, we kept the old waltz moving light, and held the measure through the slides. When the needle trembled, you said, my darling, not too fast, so softly, with a smile. The little record thinning cast its sigh from file to file. It caught one breath, then found its way. And so, to my surprise, we turned as if the smallest sway could keep the song alive. The starlight touched the window glass, the fire gave back its gold. A reverie moved through the room, more dear for growing old. No serenade came through the street, no silver trumpets shone, only the faith beneath our feet. When all the day was gone, and then I knew what love can do. When brighter years have dimmed, it hears the music falter once, and dances with the hymn. When the needle trembled, we kept the old waltz moving light, and held the measure through the slight. When the needle trembled, twilight faded from the pane, the embers breathed in red. A phonograph began its sigh where supper things had led. The plates were stacked beside the sink, the towels hung to dry. Your apron on the kitchen hook still held the evening by. You crossed the rug in stocking feet, the lamp made velvet mild. and all the room grew small and warm, the way it had when young and wild. After the dishes dried, we found one waltz the day had spared, and all the little room was shared. After the dishes dried, you laid your hand upon my sleeve, as if by old design. The chair I'd pushed back from the table still stood a little fine. The phonograph turned soft and slow, a teardrop near a smile, and every step across the rug made common things worthwhile. The curtains kept the starlight out, the fire gave one last glow. Yet in that hush of reverie, the years move sweet and slow. No serenade came through the street, no grand occasion shone, only your darling near my cheek, and all the workday gone. And then I knew how love grows old, not dim and not denied, but warm as hands that meet at dusk when all the dishes dry. After the dishes dry, we found one waltz the day had spared, and all the little room was shared. After the dishes dried. The phonograph grew faint and thin, the embers turned to gold. Still one last turning stayed with us, more dear for growing old. The lobby plants had lost their shine, the brass had taken shade, and by the desk the register lay open where we stayed. You stood beneath the stairwell clock with ink along your thumb. The keys hung still in numbered rows, the elevator dumb. A salesman left his hat behind, a bridegroom asked for ice. The night clerk folded up the bills and counted every price. My train was marked for 9:30, my trunk already sent, but still my name beneath the date looked less like what it meant. You turn the blotter toward the lamp and let the wedding clear, as if a man could take more time by watching letters dry here. Keep the page open just a little while, not enough to stop the train or change the marble aisle. Keep the page open. I watched your quiet hand and felt how far a leaving goes before it leaves the stand. The bellboy swept the doorway mat, dry leaves came turning through. A couple crossed the lobby glass and vanished into blue. You checked the room keys one by one, then paused at mine and smiled. Not sadly, not enough to ask, but softer than a child. I signed my forwarding address in letters over neat. You sanded down the final line and brushed it from the sheet. The clerk reached once to close the book. You said, "Not yet, please wait." And all the hotel held its breath around that little date. There are departures made by wheels, by stairways, coats and doors. There are departures made before a foot has crossed the floor. I did not say I hope my name might trouble you somehow. I only watched the open page and knew it knew me now. Keep the page open till the lobby lamps grow thin, till every guest has gone upstairs and night has settled in. Keep the page open, no ribbon, rose or claim, only one line still drying there that happened to be my name. At last the book was closed away. The clock resumed its sound, and all night long inside my coat, that page kept turning